Hi everyone, this is Dominic from Saskatoon Cycles, and I'm here to show another route video for biking around Saskatoon. The route I'm showing today is biking from Dundonald and Westview to the university. The route itself starts in Dundonald, but I quickly pass through Westview on my route, so really this route is for both of the neighborhoods. The main tip I have for biking around Saskatoon is to stay off of main roads as much as possible. And in the case of this route, that is 33rd Street. What we want to do instead of biking on 33rd Street is biking on 31st Street, which is just a couple of blocks south, and it's not that much farther to go down there. So here's a map of the route that I'm going to be taking on my bike. You will notice that I do go on 33rd Street a little bit, but that's actually because there's a multi-use pathway there that starts at the Polytechnic campus. And the other thing I recommend is not going through downtown, because there's just a lot of traffic there, and you'll find yourself waiting at every second traffic light as well, just because they're timed not for bikes, but for cars. So that's another reason to go up on the 33rd Street multi-use pathway. And from beginning to end, this route is just over 10.5 kilometers, which at a moderate pace may take you about 45 minutes. Alright, I am going to hop on my bike and bike this route. So I chose my starting point to be Dundonald Park. So I just bike through the park here like this, and then at the end of the park, I make a left onto George Road. And then I immediately make a right onto Kirkpatrick Crescent. And then just at the end of this bend here, there's a little pedestrian passageway that you can go through. It was still a little icy out when I was biking in April, so I had to be a little bit careful there. And then when I got to the end of there was a lot of traffic, and so I walked my bike across the crosswalk, which is what you're supposed to do when biking. And then that put me onto Richardson Road. And I just follow that until I eventually reach a right turn onto Byers Crescent, and I just follow that to just go on a slightly less traffic route. And I follow that until I reach Avenue W, make a right onto there, and then I just followed Avenue W south, and it crosses 33rd Street and leads to one of those pedestrian underpasses. And going through the pedestrian underpass means that you can avoid going on 33rd Street. Because in terms of traffic, it is much safer to take the underpass. And then that will put you onto Edmonton Ave at the other side. And then what you want to do is take that left onto 31st Street, which is a designated bike route. And so you follow that all the way until you reach a little turn in the road, which you'll briefly have to go make a left onto McMillian Ave, and then you cut through a park, and then you just keep going straight until you reach Idlewild Drive. And then what we're actually going to do here is we're going to cut through the Polytechnic campus parking lots, just because there's a multi-use pathway that starts just kind of halfway through 33rd Street, kind of in a random spot. And so to get to it, you gotta cut through these parking lots like this, and then it starts right here. And then you gotta keep in mind that when you're crossing Warman Road here at 33rd Street, you do have to yield to any vehicles if you're riding your bike across the intersection. And same thing with when you're crossing 7th Ave. And then later down as well when you're crossing Spadina Crescent. And then from there, it's simple. You just follow the Meewasin Trail south. Keep in mind when passing pedestrians, you do have to ring your bell just to let them know that you're there so that you don't startle them. And then once you get to kind of the Kinsman Park area, you're going to want to cut through the parking lot to get to this other pathway, which then leads you to the University Bridge. So you cross the river there, and then you can actually keep going straight on the sidewalk on College Drive. That sidewalk is considered a shared pathway, so you can ride your bike there. However, it is much better to just take the Meewasin Trail north and just stay away from that traffic on College Drive. And then you got to make sure you exit at the right spot right here. And then that brings you up to Campus Drive, which you can cross there. If there's any cars coming and they stop, I'll just get off my bike and walk across. And then that just brings you right to the University Bowl there. And so, yeah, that's the route. About 10.7 kilometers in total, and it may take you about 45 minutes if you're going at a moderate pace. If you're going fast, you could get there sooner, maybe 40 minutes, but it's up to you on how fast you ride your bike. All right, thanks for watching. If you have any other suggestions for routes to make, please leave them in the comments below. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.